When rollerblades first came out, I bought myself a pair. So a rollerblade has four wheels instead of a blade that you would have on an ice skate. And so I'm going pretty good down a hill on a sidewalk. And then I jumped with both feet onto the asphalt. Now, of course, the friction resistance on asphalt is slightly different than a sidewalk. So what happened is that I went over backwards. And I had all kinds of scrapes and bruises on my backside and other parts of my body. And so, if you looked at me, you might think I had some sort of skin disease. And I actually avoided any sort of social setting that involves sitting. It wasn't all that beneficial for me to sit down during this time. Probably one of the greatest tragedies of having leprosy was that you were isolated from others. In the first reading from the book of Leviticus, we're given instructions that, it would be the priest that would diagnose you as unclean, and it could be any sort of skin disease that didn't go away. They had a very primitive healthcare system, so they couldn't always figure out what was what. Then the other thing is you'd have to rip your clothes and then yell, unclean, unclean. And this is to protect other people because your skin disease is likely contagious. And then not only are you isolated from people, but you're not allowed to go into the temple, obviously, because there's people in the temple. But it was also believed that you've received this skin disease or this leprosy because you did some type of sin, so therefore God has rejected you. Now, of course, Jesus flips this upside down, especially in our gospel reading, that no, Jesus is one who will always have merciful compassion, especially on those who are suffering. In this World Day of the Sick, we are to do our part to reach out to people in hospitals, in care homes, in rehab places, to include them in our community, to be compassionate to them. Remember, what would it be like if I was in that person's shoes? And of course, we would want to have visitors. Now, Paul really encourages us to treat all people with respect. We can look at our freedom as, my freedom has been given to me so I can make choices in my life that benefits myself. But from a Christian point of view, our freedom is really for the benefit of others. In other words, I make choices that's going to benefit other people. Now, chances are if I make choices that benefits other people, it also is going to benefit me. But it's more inclusive and it's more mindful of the common good of humanity. Now, in our gospel reading, from the Gospel of Mark, there's all kinds of law breaking that's going on. The first thing is that the leper was not supposed to interact with Jesus. And then Jesus, by touching the leper, actually becomes unclean. But once again, Jesus puts mercy ahead of the law. Jesus has come to bring God's mercy to humanity. And mercy is rooted in the law, and it's the most important thing in the law, and Jesus has come to reveal that to us. Because Jesus could have healed the person from a distance, but he wanted to show that he had great compassion for those who suffer. Now, of course, Jesus becomes the leper when he's on the cross. He becomes repulsive. He becomes despised. People mock him. He experiences all kinds of physical and emotional and spiritual pain on the cross. And yet he will do this as a strength for us in our own suffering. And even St. Francis at one point was also repulsed by lepers, but he had a change of heart, and lepers became sweetness to him because they reminded him of the crucified Christ. And so as we gather around the table, Lord, once again, we know that we have been included in this communion with our God, and what a blessing that is, so that we can do our part to commune with others, especially those who are sick.